Hi everyone, welcome to the third session of a line following robot implemented in simulator. Sharath is our expert who will be conducting these sessions. Thank you, Sharath, for doing these sessions.
We'll just go through what we basically talked about in the previous two lessons. So basically in the first lesson was a very introductory sort of session. We just talked about what are the different components of a robot, both in terms of like the physical aspects, that is like the electronics, the mechanical components, as well as like the different modules of robotics, like motion planning, artificial intelligence, and control theory, etc. I also briefly talked about what is the ongoing state of the art in robotics, like what are the things that are happening in the field right now. So some of these examples include like self-driving cars, which have become very famous as of a couple of years back. I also talked about swarm robotics and humanoid robots. I showed you the picture of that Boston Dynamics robot, which I'll probably send another link. But yeah. Then we also talked about the use of robotic simulators. So these simulators basically provide many functions. One is that you can basically, understand robotics to a great extent without actually having to, physically build these robots. And another thing is that these simulators are also used in like actual industries, in universities, etc., to train your algorithms, etc. Then in the second lesson, we basically taught. So that is basically ensuring how robots move. So we talked about kinematics. We talked about the different types of kinematics, that is your forward and inverse kinematics. We also had a small demo on how to make your robot move in this simulation environment. So yeah, that's basically what we did in the first two lessons. Last week, we figured out how to make robots move. Okay, that's kind of great. But what if you tried out the assignment last week? What we essentially got was a blind robot. The robot could not see anything in its environment, and nor could it make any judgments about its environment. So it was essentially going blind. So it was like a human without ears or eyes. So today we'll be talking about how we can incorporate eyes and ears into robots, and we do that through devices called sensors. So what I'll be doing in today's lesson is basically talking about what sensors are, why use them, which I basically just answered, and the different types of robots, sensors used in autonomous robots. Sorry. Then I'll also talk about two specific things that you have to keep in mind when using sensors on real life robots. One is a software that you guys should probably end up using, and another is like an algorithm for more of that is more targeted towards the more experienced students out there. But I'll just keep it simple for the sake of this lesson. And finally, I'll wrap it up by having a small demo of using sensors in VRUP, and that will sort of be like your assignment for this course. So sorry, for this particular lesson. Okay, so whenever you're dealing with autonomous mobile robots, right? Whether it's a self-driving car, whether it's a UAV, right? Where they are, both in a relative sense and in a global sense, they also need to know where they're going. And this last question that was sort of answered last week, how they're going to get there, that is through kinematics and motion planning. But these first two questions, right? Like where is the robot and where is it heading towards? That is sort of determined by the use of certain devices called sensors. So sensors are essentially devices that enable robots to tell its own state relative to itself and states with respect to the outside environment. So, yeah, this will become a little bit clearer with this picture right here. So this is like these are some of the commonly used sensors in a self-driving car. Note that this is not like the complete list of sensors. These self-driving cars use numerous sensors. They use like many sensors of the same type as well. But you can see some of them right here. So you have your LiDARs, your radars, and your cameras. So these basically enable the robot, in this case it's a self-driving car. It enables it to tell, okay, where are other cars located while it is driving, or where are the stop signs, where are the traffic lights, where are the different people, while it's driving around. So it's basically a proximity sensor. Sensors can be of basically two types. One is like basically gets the internal information of a robot, and one basically gets the external information of the environment with respect to the robot. So all of these sensors that you saw right here in this picture, they were examples of sensors that collect external information. So your camera, your LiDAR or your radar, they all collect information about objects that are proximate to the robot. Whereas internal information sensors are sort of like they basically tell you, okay, the robot is currently located in this position in a local frame. Or you can have different types of sensors. For example, if you're having an electric vehicle, right, which is also self-driving, your battery sensor is another example of an internal sensor information. Another way to classify sensors, particularly for autonomous robots, is based on what sort of information they provide you, all right? So they can be proximity sensors or localization sensors. So proximity sensors basically tell you the presence of objects around the robot. So basically they tell you, okay, this car is right next to me, or this person is right in front of this robot. These are the sorts of information that proximity sensors give you. Now, the second type of sensor is called a localization sensor. So a localization sensor is basically telling the robot, okay, I am in this position, or I have traveled this distance in this time frame. So yeah, so those are basically the broad classification of sensors. Now we'll basically get into some examples of what proximity sensors are, and some examples of what localization sensors are.
One question. You said in case of robots, you need to know three things, right? Where to go, where is it?
Yeah.
And how do we get there? But in case of a fixed robot, which is non-mobile, then we sort of do know, right, where it is and where we have to go.
Yes.
In case of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually a good point. So I was specifically referring to mobile robots, mobile autonomous robots. So in terms of like fixed robots, like your industrial robots, right? You do know where it is supposed to go, like that Tesla charging that you just saw, right? It knew where it was supposed to go. But even those types of robots do need sensors, but they are of a different type. So for example, you will need to have like sort of like pressure sensors to determine. So suppose your robot is holding a gun, or a welding gun or something like that, right? It needs to exert a certain amount of force. Maybe if it exerts too much of a force, it might not, do a good job in whatever it's doing. So there are different sensors used in that sort of robot. But for this, I'm basically sticking to mobile robots. We'll start off with what proximity sensors are. Well, you sort of know what they are right now. They basically tell information of other obstacles in the vicinity of the robot. But we'll talk about a few of them right here. So one of the most popular proximity sensors is your ultrasonic sensor. So if you've seen bats operate, right? they basically rely on echolocation. So they basically send out a sound wave, and then they wait for that sound wave to come back to determine whether or not there's an obstacle present. So that is the exact same principle used in robotics. And this is how an ultrasonic sensor looks like. So these are very cheap. They're used in all sorts of hobby robots. They're even used in like self-driving cars, but they're more of the industrial nature. They're very high end. The sort of robots, the sort of ultrasonic sensors that you see in Arduino are sort of like low quality, but they get the job done. One important thing to note is that they cannot detect irregular shaped objects. So for example, this will actually not be a good example. So from personal experience, I've noticed that ultrasonic sensors do not work well with even conical objects. They need to be like rectangular shaped objects. Another example of a proximity sensor is your infrared sensor. So unlike an ultrasonic sensor, which relies on sound waves, this relies on an infrared light being sent back and forth between your sensor and the obstacle. So this is very suited for line detection sort of activities. So in your next lesson, this is the sort of sensor that you'll be working with. So now I'll talk about two of the more industrial grade proximity sensors. They are your LiDAR sensors and your cameras.
I have a question related to IR sensors.
Yep.
So can IR sensors detect irregular shapes? Because ultrasonic cannot detect. So is it the same case with IR also?
Okay, good question. So they can detect irregular shaped objects, but they can only do so in a straight line. So so yeah, so this is the sort of point that I wanted to bring across. Many of these sensors, right, they can do one job very well, but they will not do another job quite well. So for example, your ultrasonic sensor, right, it will sort of be able to detect objects within a conical angle, because you might not see it here, but the sound waves that it propagates, right, they're not unidirectional. Whereas your IR sensor is the opposite. So you need to sort of understand the complementary nature of these sensors. I'll sort of get to that point a little bit later.